Welcome everybody, and thanks for being here. Welcome to Smart Water Wednesdays. Today we have Sam Burris from Fairfax County, Virginia as our special guest, and we're going to be talking about managing irrigation in the summertime heat. I have with me my co-host, Ben Slick.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Slick, and Chris Manchuk on the web host.
Good morning, everyone.
And last but not least, Sam Burris from Fairfax County, Virginia.
Hi.
Morning, Sam. And we are just going to jump right into this. So I'm going to share my screen here for a minute. See if I can't get this done. There we go. Apologies. Technical difficulties. There it is. Share screen. Thank you. Sorry for that. Okay. So summertime management tools, right? How to manage your weather track in the summertime heat is what we are all about today with our local water hero for Fairfax County, as featured on the HydroPoint website. Sam has been very, very nice about lending us his perspective and giving us some lessons on how the systems are used in the field, and valuable feedback going both ways. Absolutely. So Sam is a longtime customer of ours, and we've been working side by side with Fairfax County for many years. He's going to be a great resource on the tools that it takes to manage your weather track systems during the summertime. I call that the dog days of summer, right? The heat of summer, where everything in the irrigation world is moving full speed, right? As the temperatures go up, so do the run times, and so does the demand for irrigation systems that are running at top efficiency. So we're keeping an eye on those, and not only are the systems running at full speed, but all of the irrigation techs are too. This is what I used to experience when I was an irrigation tech. This time of year was 60-hour weeks. Couldn't rack up enough overtime. There was definitely always more work in the heat of summer than there was man hours to do it. And so what we want to propose with this session is how to use the weather track tools to work smart, how to save yourselves time, how to save yourselves steps in the field, to get as much work done as efficiently as possible to keep those systems and those customers happy. So what we're going to talk about today is just some tips and tricks. We'll talk about using WeatherTrack Mobile. This is a great time saver, and how to use that mobile app to save yourself time on site when you're doing the wet check, when you're actually inspecting the irrigation systems. We'll also talk about the advantage of using the WeatherTrack alerts, how that can save you not only time on site, but trips to the site. Truck or windshield time, right, is at a premium. So any time that you can eliminate going to a site that doesn't need your attention, it's time that can be used someplace else to work smart. And then, of course, Sam and I were talking yesterday about how to manage depletions and how some of the tips and tricks that he uses to manage depletions. We got into that a little bit in last week's session, and I thought it was a great topic to continue to build on this week. So
Ben, before we dive in too deep,
go ahead.
Sam, could you just give the audience a quick background overview of you and how you've grown up in this industry and what some of the challenges you have in front of you managing sports fields and large turf panels, et cetera?
Well, I've worked for a lot of professional teams. I've worked for the Expos, Cardinals, Browns. I went to Penn State. I worked for the Redskins, worked for the Orioles, worked for Mary Washington, which is a small D3 school in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And then I moved up here, which I consider the big leagues of the counties. I manage 100 artificial fields and 250 athletic diamond fields. And I think out of those 250, 36 of them have irrigation. So, and then I'm also a subject matter expert for our high school fields irrigation system. When my supervisor has issues, I go out and manage those or help a contractor do that. Our main problem here as a athletic field manager be use. Our diamond fields are used by seniors at 8 a.m. They play until 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and then the kids come back after school or in the summer until 11 or 12 at night. So our water windows are very, very, very small, and that's one issues I have at Fairfax County is keeping our water window alerts down.
That's awesome. And you're a sports turf specialist, right? That's what
Turfgrass specialist here for the county.
Specialist?
Yeah,
that's awesome. And so we already touched on this with you, but I wanted just to highlight the value of WeatherTrack Mobile, right? When we get into WeatherTrack Mobile, this is the tool that we recommend for our users to test the systems. Use that WeatherTrack Mobile app for manual irrigation, for testing the systems, for doing the daily grind of going and checking heads and checking for any breaks or anything spray in the parking lot. While you're there, you can use the WeatherTrack Mobile to address any station programming issues. You can go in, like we've discussed on previous seminars, go in and use the percent adjust or the other tools to change the programming and make sure that the programming in the controller matches the programming in the field, as well as, I have to plug it, because we have the new mapping features available through the mobile. Definitely think that this is a great time to kind of push on that and make sure that guys are using that mapping feature to mark all of the essential components that they manage out on sites. That will save you a ton of time. Very easy to drop a pin where the backflow is, and then the next guy doesn't have to search it out and find it. So I think that WeatherTrack Mobile is a huge efficiency tool and saving my contractors a ton of time. Sam, how do you use WeatherTrack Mobile in your daily workflow?
Well, this last update you did, I think, was one of your biggest helpful things, but I think the pinning became more user-friendly. Our systems are so big and so our crews are small. So I'm trying to get them to start pinning the backflows and heads and things like that so they can start being more efficient when they come out. But they're having a hard time trying to figure that out. So I think I may try to tackle that this winter.
Yeah,
a little more.
I think institutionalizing that information is important, right? Because in exactly your scenario where there's so many crews and so many different folks that might need to interact with those components, having a document or a resource where all of those components live is invaluable for an organization like yours.
Especially with the lack of help we have sometimes, because right now with the whole pandemic, all of our positions are frozen. So if somebody's leaving or something like that, we're not replacing them right now. So being more efficient and having that ability to have it in your hand is key. To pop on a zone, to check, to change clear alerts, change percent adjust. Some of that you couldn't do on your original app, and now it's improving enough where it's actually a tool to use instead of just popping it on and off.
That's awesome. Ben Slick, anything to build on WeatherTrack Mobile experience?
No, I've noticed in my own use of the tool at home, it's gotten faster. The amount of time it takes to actually access the station has improved dramatically. So.
And that's something that we're always continuing to address, right? We're always re-examining how we can do things more efficiently on our side to make sure that that rolls over to your experience as well. So making sure that you get the response that you need from the app is something that our engineers continue to plug away at and deliver reliable results on. All right, so we'll go back to the PowerPoint. We'll move on from manual irrigation and talk about how alerts are your friend. Now, I know that experienced WeatherTrack users go through phases where alerts are your friend and then they're your worst enemy. And just remember that the WeatherTrack is designed to highlight any issues that it detects in the field. So these are very helpful if you listen to them and you know how to manage them. I recognize that they can also be overwhelming if you are not used to this level or this amount of information about your systems. But we've got some great tools that I want to show you quickly how to really tie into those alerts without feeling overwhelmed by them. And so I'm going to get out of this real fast. We're going to jump into weathertrack.net. I closed weathertrack.net so I could zoom. Add. Ready, go. Sorry. So if I go in and the first thing we want to look at is the alert notification, right? How do we tie into those alerts at weathertrack.net? And those come up right here on the first screen, right? We dashboard that information and get you all of the alert information as quickly as you can. What Sam was talking about was the alert list. The alert list is where we provide all of the detail of all of the alerts that your system has generated. So you can go in here and not only see which controllers have alerts on them, but you can see specific information about those alerts. So if I go in and I look at a station-based alert, like a station high flow alert, that will tell you exactly what station needs your attention. And this is critical for that efficient management, right? You know exactly what valve box to walk to when you go out on site, what tools you need to bring, what materials you need to bring. So these can really save you a lot of time if you use the information correctly, right? It will allow you to do more with your days. And one of the things that we have—
Hey Ben, it's worth just showing people, go back to the alert list.
Yep.
And just make sure everybody knows that you can click on the word alert type there in the blue bar, and it'll sort those for you in ascending order. So there's, wherever you see the dashes, obviously there's help.
Yep.
On, you know, what the alert is and what causes it and how to clear it. But if you go to the top and type on, just click on the alert type, you can sort all your alerts.
Sort by water window. These filtering tools make it easy to scan through a large account. You can filter by days, you can filter by specific alerts, and make sure that we refine that alert information exactly to where we want it to be. And then once I've got it all sorted down, once I've got it all sorted down the way I want it, I can also export that report into a PDF or an Excel spreadsheet, depending on what you're doing with it, to make it easy to communicate this information, right? So if you're talking to your boss or your customer, you can just show them what you're looking at very easily. While we're on the subject, this is going to be my last point, but while we're here, we also have a complete file of alert help videos. So we can select the alert helps right here. Oh, just kidding, came up. And this takes you to our YouTube channel where we have broken down each individual alert. I've made a video designed to be 2 minutes, give or take, that identifies what that alert is, what it means, and what I as an irrigation tech would be doing to fix that alert. So again, the learning curve on these alerts is part of the process. Understanding what these alerts are and what they mean is something that generates a lot of calls to customer service, and anything we can do to equip you with the right information at the right time to keep you moving forward, we want to make sure that you know about and you're using as it makes sense to your workflow. And then the last one, we want to jump over and look at alert text and email notification, right? So any alert that gets generated on your controller, you can have sent to your phone, whether it's via text or email. And at WeatherTrack, we know that while all alerts are important, they're not all equally important. So we want to make sure that we're using these filtering tools and making sure that we only select the alerts that are so important that they need to reach out and tap us on the shoulder, right? So if I get a mainline break, that's a critical issue. I can say, if my mainline pops 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I want to know about it. But if I get a station high flow alert, that's important, but it's not wake me up in the middle of the night kind of important. So you can select the station high flow alert and only say between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. and only on the weekdays, right? So if we all worked banker hours, that way that you're not being overwhelmed. You got to be careful signing up for alerts. Some folks sign up for too much and they get rolled by it, right? And so very strategically select which alerts that you need to be tied into, as well as which sites you need to be tied into. And this will help regulate the flow of information, give you what you need, and filter out the stuff that is just noise. And then the last thing I wanted to show you in terms of alert management tools, because that on-site notification, that text and email notification is really designed for the guys in the field, right? And the guys that will be responding to those alerts. But one thing that I see as important is the upper level managers, the water managers of the world, like Sam, who manages many folks, might want to have a summary of that alert information instead of having it come at him one piece of information at a time. And for that, we have the ability to what we call subscribe to reports. So if I log in, that same alert information that we were looking at on the alerts page, I can pull in a report form. And with WeatherTrack, you can actually subscribe to an alert report and have WeatherTrack automatically generate an alert report at the time of your choosing on a routine and get delivered to your inbox. So every Monday morning, I could log in, instead of logging into weathertrack.net, right to my inbox comes a list of all of the alerts on all of the controllers that I'm managing. And I can use that to kind of work through and understand who I need to put into action, right? Which tech needs to go to which site and all of that kind of detail stuff. So this is true today for alert reports, but true of all WeatherTrack reporting. Creating a scheduled report is something that will definitely save you time and save you clicks. It streamlines the information to right where you're looking for it, right where you need it to be. Sam, are you using any of the text or email notifications or the scheduled reports?
Me personally, I do the reports, but the alerts, I get too many, and they're at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning, and I was getting 50, 60 dings on my emails, and my phone was just going crazy. So I eliminated those, and I just make it a habit to go in every morning and look at the alerts. And then I have 6 area crews that they also help manage their areas. And so they go in every morning and they have the text alerts, and their managers have text alerts. And so they use it probably more than I do.
Awesome. Yeah, I could see it as a manager position. That can be a lot. You have a lot of controllers that you're overseeing for sure. So those reporting tools would be good for you. All right. And on top of the alert videos, I think that really captures what we wanted to say about just staying on top of alerts. Alert management, I understand, is something that is the daily grind. And the WeatherTrack is trying to help you, trying to be your friend by telling you where to focus your energy, where to send the crews, or what valve box to walk to is going to save you a bunch of time on site. And this time of year, any minutes that you save are valuable minutes.
Hey, Ben Coffey, we got one question here regarding alerts, and it relates to time savings. It's a question specifically about a mainline brake alert, and wondering if a mainline brake alert can be distinguishable if it's on master valve versus a mainline brake from combined stations running.
Definitely you need to account for, so let's back up one step. The mainline brake alert is created when a measured threshold is exceeded, right? We have a set number that we say our system is never going to pass, and we set that as the mainline brake threshold, right? This is just, say, 100 gallons a minute. If I expect my system to run at 80 gallons a minute, I set that threshold to 100, and then I know if we get to 100 gallons per minute, there's a problem. Now, one of the common programming errors, and I think that this is what you're referring to, is we need to know how many gallons per minute our system will use at all times. And if you're running multiple stations, that needs to be accounted for in the programming of that mainline break threshold, right? If we're running 2 stations at once, it obviously doubles the usage. And if you set that mainline break threshold to only account for 1 station at a time, it's always on duty, right? That's a global threshold. So if you're running 2 at a time, you're likely to break that threshold if you haven't accounted for it in the programming. But what I recommend is when you're programming your mainline break threshold, you calculate your highest anticipated use. What are the 2 biggest stations that might be running at the same time? And use that as the number that we use to calculate that mainline break threshold.
I've also adjusted the valves out in the field to prevent a lot of that, because our system, when we first got it, was getting a lot of those. And we traced it back on the old bladders weren't releasing, and we had to readjust our bladders. So the control, they weren't coming on at the same time, because one would be on for like 5 minutes. And it's only because we weren't adjusting or we weren't replacing with newer parts.
Yeah, slower stuck valves that are just bumping up that usage is a real common reason for that type of alert as well. Absolutely. All right, great question. All right, so we'll go back, and the last thing we want to look at is managing depletions. This came up last week, and I just think that this is a super important topic. It's something that really the advanced users get to know very well, and you don't even realize as a beginning user that this is something that you need to track. And so I think once you tie into watching your current depletion, remember that underneath every station WeatherTrack thinks that there's a glass of water, and we're tracking the depletion on that glass of water. The growing condition for your plan is adequate as long as that glass of water is totally full or 0% deplete, and is adequate until that glass of water gets to be 50%, right? Or 50% depletion is what prompts irrigation. Remember that if we can't irrigate at that point and irrigation continues to drop, or depletion continues to drop, we can get to 70% depletion, which will cause the station high depletion alert, which is a super common thing to battle here in the middle of summer. And so what Sam and I were talking about, and Sam's going to have a story about how he manages this, but I wanted to show you real quick on the WeatherTrack.
That's how it's been described to me by every therapist.
I got background noise from somebody.
And I think my mom has even tipped.
Somebody's talking about their mom. We go to the manage controller page for any controller that we manage. And this is where we tie into seeing exactly what our controller is thinking. And so I can come in here and see station by station what my depletions are. So here on station 1, I know I'm going to irrigate when that gets to be 50% deplete. That's our target maximum allowable depletion. And this guy right here watered last night, so he's only accumulated 7% depletion. So this will continue to drop until we get to 50%, and that will give us our irrigation point. Now, a couple of things that experienced users will do. If I go out and I'm testing the system, I lay down a bunch of water and I fill up the root zone with water. I don't need to irrigate. I can simply come in here and adjust the current depletion for a station. Say I was fixing station 1, I can select that station and then drop down here to the bottom and select a 0% depletion for that station. And when I hit preview changes, it will show me that I have made an adjustment to that station. And then I hit save and send, and that will set the depletion to 0% for that one station. So I can go through and do that 1 or 2 or 10 stations at a time. Or I can, up here at the top of the page, I've got a button that says update depletion for all stations. So if you just got a saturating rain event and everything's soaking wet, you can come in here and reset all of the depletions to 0% and say that everything is totally full and we don't need to irrigate. Sam, talk to me about how you use that managed depletion level. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, and I was wondering if water window kind of correlates with depletion, because we have a lot of water. Like my irrigation window is only like from midnight to 7 a.m. and I have parks with, I don't know, 7 or 8 fields that are rectangles and large diamonds, and we can't get through that. So the water window throws alert, and then the depletion goes up at the same time. Am I correct on that?
Opposite, right? So
Oh, the opposite.
the depletion goes up. So once we get to 50% depletion, we need a full cycle of irrigation to catch that up.
Yeah.
Anything beyond that, we're adding minutes to catch that station up, to give that station the extra water that it needs to stay healthy. So at 50%, if you're getting 10 minutes, if it goes an extra day or 2 days, we're down to 70%. That's tacking on extra minutes to your runtime to catch that station up, which then exaggerates the amount of time that it takes to irrigate. And we probably passed that water window, right? We've got the set number of hours that we can allow irrigation. And as we blow those individual station run times up, we butt up against the water window alert.
So my system, we water Sunday nights, some Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and we don't water Tuesday. Well, we kind of water Tuesdays, but we have a limited time on when we can water. We don't water Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays because we're not here on weekends. And then our users, the little leagues and stuff, we don't want the infields being messy because we're not here to fix those messes. So Sunday night, the depletion is so high that it's run. And then Monday when I come in, I kind of clear that because it's going to try to catch up all week for the weekend that we miss. And it never catches up until that Thursday. It's still trying to catch up from the week before. And then finally it just piles on. So I have to continually kill the depletion like every Monday morning. I go in and zero it out so it's not trying to overcompensate.
You set it to 0 or you set it to 50?
I go to 0 every Monday.
Okay. Yeah, and that's real common. That's something we discussed last week as a future enhancement, being able to see that on the app because it's becoming such a commonplace thing that guys are tied into it. They get it. The light bulb has finally clicked on our users, and they understand how that depletion is working, and they want to be able to manage it even more closely. So it's something we hadn't heard until just recently, but definitely a valuable add. So that is kind of the summertime lowdown from WeatherTrack. Sam, do you have any other tips and tricks that you use when all of your crews are running full speed? Any advice to give the guys that are listening?
Keep your depletions going. And one problem we had when we first got the system was our system, the WeatherTrack system showed the flaws in our old systems. So we had a very big learning curve because our systems were so old, our infrastructure, that WeatherTrack was pointing them out. So crews before were just turning off zones and turning this off and not running things. Well, this thing was just throwing alarms. So now our irrigation systems are running more efficient because we got the zones running on time. We got all zones hitting, perfect coverage where before we'd have dead areas or brown areas and no one could ever figure out why. So I feel like our systems are running more efficiently now that we cleared those, the valve issues, some getting the guys to realize that when they change a nozzle, what it does back in the controller for the alarms. If you're not relearning flow after changing a head or a nozzle, that throws alarms because of flow. I feel like learning flow is one of the key things to keeping the alarms down and making the system run more efficiently.
Yeah, absolutely. I always tell new customers that what you got to know that WeatherTrack is going to highlight any inefficiency in your system, right? By delivering scientific irrigation, we're going to see exactly where you don't have the head-to-head coverage or the other issues that you mentioned, for sure.
Sam, in your systems, how is your water pressure, and what % of your sites
we
are running
use street pressure, we use street water. we're about 90 PSIs coming from the street. So we do have pumps, but the pumps aren't necessarily needed other than the distance that we got to pump the water to a field from our pump house would be one reason why we need a pump. But most of our sites don't need pumps because the city pressure is so good.
And are you running in overlap mode where multiple stations are coming on at once, or are you running stack one at a time?
I'm learning the water window thing and learning how to do that. So some parks we have watering on Monday, some parks we have watering on Tuesday because one field's bigger. So we have to split the park into multiple water windows. So sometimes we are overlapping. We have an OptiFlow system that we're doing that on, and it seems to be working. And the OptiFlow was helping us control a lot of stuff. So it was useful.
It's awesome. Yeah, the OptiFlow is a great way to combat those water window issues for sure. All right, Sam, we're wrapping up on time here, and I always have to ask each one of our guests, what does WeatherTrack save you?
Time, because that app, I don't have to be going back and forth from the controller to the field, I can be out in the field, do something and say, I want to see this work. Doing that, the app is getting more useful and more of a tool than just an on and off button switch. So that's probably what I like the best out of it and how it's saving me more time.
I like
and
that.
Also want to mention that we cut our water bill in half by using this smart irrigation system. So at first it was a lot, and the county was like, hey, this was supposed to save us money. I told them, hey, we had issues in the field that weren't running before, so now you're getting true numbers. And after running it after 2 or 3 years, we're saving about half. So it's doing what we expected it to do.
Excellent work. Excellent work.
I love that that's an afterthought, but thank you.
All right, so we set us up here. Oh, get out of this guy. Go back to this guy. And that brings us to our wrap up, where I always want to remind you that we're here to help you. We've got great resources at our customer service team, our online resources, including our knowledge base, and free training that is available at hydropoint.learnupon.com. So anything that we can do to support your team's development and understand how to use these WeatherTrack tools to their best advantage, we are happy to step in and help.
Hey, Ben, I got another thing that this saves me for.
Awesome.
Is that call number. My guys are always calling me what to do, and I'm like, hey, call the help number. And now I got the guys calling the help number, so it makes me less wanted in the field. So that helps out a lot too.
Yeah, and I see that as a big advantage with WeatherTrack that guys aren't used to, because we have dedicated so many resources to that type of support that our customers expect. It's really out in front of the industry standard by a lot. Like the guys that are used to calling some of the competitors are pleasantly surprised by the level of service that they get. So thanks for the shout out to the customer service team.
Hey, Ben Coffey, another good questions come up on what are either Sam's thoughts or your thoughts on the station grouping feature and tool on assisting during the summer as a time saver?
Sam, do you use the station grouping tool?
No, I haven't grown that far in my my knowledge, but that is the next step I want to try to take is starting to learn how to do that a little more efficiently. It takes me some time.
Definitely will add that as a subject of an upcoming webinar. Absolutely, the scalable features on WeatherTrack.net make making many changes to your stations very easy. So that absolutely can be a time-saving feature to say, if Sam wanted to say, I manage 100 controllers, and on all 100 controllers, I just want to turn my turf stations down by 10%. With the station grouping features, you can easily pull a station group of all your turf stations and make the same change to all of the stations at once. So definitely something that is an efficiency tool. All right, I'm over time here. We're going to click back to the PowerPoint. We're going to plug next week. We've got Andrew Chase coming, and we are going to talk about a day in the life of a water manager. Andrew Chase has been a great water manager of ours for years through a couple of different companies, has a ton of WeatherTrack experience, and he's going to talk about not only the technology and how he uses it as an irrigator, but also as a manager and how he uses WeatherTrack to kind of manage his people and manage his customers and manage the whole experience. So I'm real excited about what we've got on tap next week. All right, and that is it for me. Thank you everyone for showing up for Smart Water Wednesdays. Look forward to seeing you here next week. Ben?
Thank you, everybody. Good to be with you. Sam, good to see you again, my friend. Thank you very much for your time today.
Yes, sir. No problem. Anytime.
All right.
Chris Manchuk?
Sam, thanks again. Appreciate it. Very nice to meet you and hope to get out there and see you in person sometime soon. And thanks everybody for joining us again. Stay safe. Everybody be good.
Outstanding. And Sam, you want to take us out? Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.
See
Thanks,
you guys
Sam.
later.
See ya.